Well, hello everyone, how are you doing this fine day? Hope you're enjoying your week. Welcome to another survival challenge. All right, so I woke up this morning with a really cool idea. So you guys know what Crisis on Infinite Earths is, right? It's basically, if you read DC Comics or you don't read DC Comics, you just go outside. You've probably heard of Crisis on Infinite Earths. Basically, it's this thing that DC Comics did where they took all the different crazy universes that exist within DC and they smashed them all together and they just had one massive like storyline where all these different universes met, right? So it was Prime Earth, Earth 2 or 3 or 4 or 5, whatever. You had like 60 different versions of Superman and Green Lantern and Martian Manhunter and all these different characters. And they all came together in this big, just like chaotic storyline. So I thought to myself, how cool would it be if we took that concept but applied it to shit that's not, you know, Marvel or DC, it's not a comic book. And I thought, well, ARPGs are kind of having a renaissance right now. They announced Titan Quest 2, which is a sequel to a game that came out like 15 years ago. Path of Exile 2 just released its early access like a day ago, and that looks like that's going to be one of the best games of the year. Diablo 4 came out not that long ago, and with Baldur's Gate being so successful, chances are Larian's probably going to start working on Divinity 3 pretty soon. So I thought, let's take all these universes, these ARPG universes, and just do a Crisis on Infinite Earths situation where what would happen if all of these different universes just collide in this big chaotic clusterfuck and just see what might happen. Like, what would the characters do? How would the villains and heroes and universes interact with each other as they come together in this just so awesome. And if you enjoyed the video, make sure to like, subscribe, comment, share, enjoy the membership. Remember, if you join the membership, you get videos early. But I've wasted enough of your time. Let's get started. Well, sort of. We have two quick rules we have to go over before we actually get started. First rule is these games are ARPGs. And ARPGs are so fucking dense when it comes to leveling up your character and what you can do with them. So when I'm using different characters in this challenge, I'm not going to keep talking about like, oh, well, if you do this build, you can do this. And with this build, you can do... It's like, no way, not going over that. We're just assuming that all the protagonists of these games are composite. They have all of their abilities and all of their weapons and everything is just at their disposal. Is it going to make all these characters brokenly overpowered? Yes, but we're doing it with all of them, so it should be relatively fair. Hopefully. We'll see. Second rule, if you've seen some of my videos before, you know how I usually structure them. I start off by talking about the weakest universe and then go on to the strongest universe, who will do the worst to who will do the best. That's not how I'm going to be structuring this one because I'm not throwing one dude at one universe one at a time. They're all just sort of going to blend in together. So the order is just random. So if you see a certain universe appear before another universe that you're like, well, that universe is clearly stronger than that, don't worry about it. It's not in any order. I'm going to go over the 4 different universes, and at the end, we're going to have the showdown where we put them all together, and then we're going to just discuss what might go down with those characters interacting with each other. Cool? Cool. Now let's get started. First up, we have the Diablo universe. So I guess to kind of tell you the fundamentals of how Diablo universe works, kind of have to tell you the creation story of the Diablo universe, weirdly enough. You guys know what the Big Bang is, right? Okay, so imagine the Big Bang, but it's a dude. That's the creation story for the Diablo universe. Long time ago, there was this dude named Anu, and he was just like a godlike being that was just by himself in the universe and nothing else mattered, and it was fine. One day, Anu was just chilling in this sort of infinite nothingness. Boring. And because he was so bored, he was just kind of sitting there in his own thoughts and just fucking awfulness. And it just made him feel really bad. And he didn't like all these bad feelings like sadness and anger and just you know, normal human shit that everybody feels. But then he remembered, oh shit, I'm an all-powerful space god. I'll just fucking get rid of him. So that's what he did. He casted out all these bad feelings and just chucked them out into the ether. But because he's an all-powerful space god, all those bad feelings turned into this weird black shadow cloud thing, and they came together and created this giant 7-headed dragon monster that went by the name of Tathamet. And then Tathamet and Anu just started fucking fighting because obviously they're gonna fight. Tathamet is literally everything that Anu hates about himself. This fight lasted a very long time. I guess? I mean, technically, I guess it didn't last any time at all because this was before the existence of time. But in the lore, it says that it lasted like millennia or something. I don't know. It's confusing. Point is, it went on for a while. Eventually, this fight escalated to where they both killed each other, and it created a massive explosion. And this explosion was essentially the Big Bang that created the entirety of the Diablo universe. With Anu's body creating heaven and angels and all the good stuff, and Tathamet creating hell and demons and all the bad stuff. And much like Tathamet and Anu's hatred for one another, the demons and the angels in this new world hated each other as well, and they started warring. Everything from the demons to the angels to the humans to the road that you walk on is all a part of Anu. When you leave your house in the morning in the Diablo universe and you go walk to work, The road that you're walking on is like a Anu's testicles or thigh. Let's go with thigh. It's some part of Anu. And Anu blowing up and making the Diablo universe didn't just make one universe. It made an infinite number of universes with an infinite number of timelines. And this is the game's pseudo way of explaining to you how the game works. So like, if you're playing as a barbarian in your Diablo 4 game, and I'm playing as a barbarian in my Diablo 4 game, and I decide to jump into your game, we're not playing as two different characters that happen to be barbarians, we're playing as the same character, just I'm from a different universe as your barbarian. Every single playthrough of every single Diablo game is completely canon. It just happens in another universe. It would be like the same thing as like Superman and Prime Earth meeting Superman and Earth 2. And this universe that was created by Anu fucking sucks. It's not good to live here. In the Diablo universe, you have demons and angels, and they are at a constant forever war, with the humans being like descendants of both demons and angels together, and they all hate each other, and they're all trying to kill each other at all times. It is very heavily implied the war between the demons, angels, and humans is fated or destined, whatever word you like, to continue forever at all times. It can't be stopped. They are all just bound by the fate to just war forever, which could be a good thing in this challenge for them or a bad thing. If you're fated to war forever, it could be possible that none of the other universes can actually overcome the people within this universe. So like, for instance, the creators of the game have actually said that Diablo cannot be put down. He is destined to always come back and always be a problem. When you kill a demon in this universe, it just goes to hell, comes back to life, and then comes right back to Earth. If you kill an angel in this universe, it does basically the same thing, except it becomes reincarnated. So it has like a new personality, and it doesn't remember its past life, but it still becomes reborn as a warrior angel to fight for heaven. Humans don't work that way, but they don't need to because they just keep having kids and they can just reproduce like bunnies, so it's fine. And because of this, the war just goes on forever and ever and ever. Now, this is good for the Diablo universe and bad for the Diablo universe. On one hand, it's good because it means that other universes that do not have any form of fate manipulation will not be able to overcome the demons or angels or really anybody in the Diablo universe, at least not permanently. Like, if they overcome Diablo, they can beat Diablo in a fight, and Diablo can get sent back to hell, but that's it. Like, he'll just keep coming back. And even if you have certain abilities like soul destruction or whatever, fate itself will stop that from happening somehow. I don't know how, but somehow it will, according to the developers of this game. On the flip side, it's actually really bad for them as well, because it means that the entirety of the Diablo multiverse is extremely susceptible to fate manipulation. The fact that they are all bound and controlled by fate means even the absolute strongest of beings could be manipulated by a character with fate manipulation. So if any other character in any of these other universes have fate manipulation, they should be able to pretty easily bind any character within the Diablo universe to said fate, which for obvious reasons could be pretty bad for them going forward. Now, in terms of actual power level of the Diablo universe, are they like strong? This is kind of where they're gonna have some issues. Anu is clearly very strong. Anu exploded, created infinite, multiverse, whatever, infinite timelines. There's this thing called the World Stone that was originally the heart of Anu that is considered the nexus of all of creation. And every single universe and timeline that exists comes from this heart of creation. And within this infinite multiverse, there are infinite planes of existence. Anu was powerful as shit. Now, I have seen arguments that say that the primevals, who are basically like the most powerful of the demons, and the archangels, who are the most powerful of the angels, are actually like omniversal, multiversal beings. And the reason why that is because they're conceptual beings. So like, Diablo is the concept of terror itself. And because the Diablo universe is an infinite multiverse with infinite higher planes, infinite timelines, all that, that means that he should embody all of terror across all of that area, which should make him like an omniversal being because he's infinitely planes of it. That's just some stupid scalar wank. That's dumb. When you actually play through the story of the game, you see very quickly that that's just not the way the world works. Diablo is the embodiment of terror, but it doesn't require any sort of conceptual manipulation in order to kill him. When you do kill him, it's not like terror ceases to exist. You also have the idea that there's more than one Diablo. If you're going with the idea that every single world is canon that everyone plays with, which has been stated, that means that across every single universe and timeline, there is a totally different Diablo. Diablo who is not aware of the other Diablos. And when I mean not aware, I don't mean he's not aware they exist. I mean, like, they don't share the same, they're not the same person. One Diablo is not aware of all of the other Diablos and what they're going through. It's not like a hive mind of Diablos. So even if he was a concept of terror, it would only be a terror within that universe, within that timeline. But he's clearly not, because killing him doesn't erase that concept. And you can kill him just by hitting him hard enough. He doesn't embody the idea of being a concept. What I think is more accurate to state is that all of the primevals and the archangels were birthed from those concepts rather than them being those concepts. So like, there are archangels who are birthed from the concept of justice and the concept of truth or whatever. And then you have the prime demons who are birthed from war and terror and all sorts of negative shit. But it's not the same as being a conceptual being. And in terms of what we actually see them do, they do have some cool hacksy abilities. Like Diablo can, control people's minds and inflict fear upon you. He can create demons out of nothing. Like, he has some cool powers, but no one in the Diablo universe has ever shown like threatening the world's existence or erasing a reality or doing anything close to what people claim that they are capable of, stating that they are omniversal level beings. They're essentially just big ass monsters with a lot of cool hacksy abilities that you can overcome with arrows and magic and swords and shit like that. And it's pretty basic. There are some statements, like at one point it is stated that Lilith can't be hurt with steel or magic, but that's stated by like a regular foot soldier. And your character in that game eventually overcomes Lilith with just steel and magic. It doesn't need anything special to do it. So I kind of just chalk that up to that one soldier not being capable of killing her. Not necessarily no one being capable of killing her. Just swing your sword harder, man. Like, we've seen angels crash down to earth from heaven, like falling down to the planet. We've seen demons destroy like villages and a castle at one point. And I think there was another point where a demon shook a mountain, but there's really nothing that shows this crazy universe reality destroying power that people claim that there is. It's a strong universe, it's just not that strong. But honestly, that's not even the biggest hindrance that Diablo is going to have. The biggest hindrance that Diablo is going to have is that out of all of the RPGs on this list, Diablo has the most restrictive RPG mechanics. And surprisingly, maybe not so surprisingly, that's really going to be what's going to be the issue for them. There isn't a whole lot you can do in Diablo. You don't have a vast array of different crazy powers and hacks abilities. You pick a class, that class has very restrictive things that it can do. You upgrade its stats and give it some bonuses here and there based on what runes you attach to it or what the equipment is or whatever. But for the most part, all demon hunters fight like demon hunters. All barbarians fight like barbarians. All monks fight like monks. All witch doctors fight like witch doctors. Necromancers fight. Okay, I'm not gonna keep going. You get the idea. There's slight differences between them, but it's super restrictive in a way that none of the other universes are. And because of that, some of the other universes that I'm going to get to are going to have such a wide variety of powers and abilities and crazy hacks that you can do. Diablo just doesn't really compare in that particular category. They lack variety in moveset, strategies, and hacksy abilities. And you'll see more of what I'm talking about as I make my way through the list. In terms of story, there's also really not that much to talk about here. Like I said, all of the villains of the story do what they do because they're destined to do it. All the heroes of the story do what they do because they're destined to do it. Every single story of Diablo is some bad guy is trying to do some bad thing, and you're some hero who comes up to stop the bad thing from happening because you're all just sort of forced in this path, and there's nothing you can really do about it, even if the characters in the story aren't necessarily aware that they're forced into it. This doesn't necessarily hurt the universe at all, but it does mean that I can't really take character motivations into consideration when talking about this because none of the protagonists of the series have character motivations. I can take character motivations of villains and side characters and certain angels and stuff, but not really the main characters because, again, we don't know why they're doing what they're doing. Some of the other protagonists on this list have far more clear motivations than what they give the Diablo characters. So in summary, with Diablo, you have this massive universe, literally limitless in size, countless universes, countless timelines, countless all this shit that are forever destined to be at war with each other, whether they want to or not, but that doesn't really have a whole lot of different powers and abilities and options when it comes to combat and things like this. You do have a new in Diablo, and if he was in this challenge, he would definitely do some shit because he's clearly very powerful, but he's dead, and he's been dead for a really long time. And if we brought him back into the challenge, we would have to just pretend like all of Diablo doesn't exist because he had to die to bring about what the Diablo universe is. We'd basically not even be using the Diablo universe. We'd just be using this one dude and nobody else. And no, that's not what the challenge is. Can't do that. Next up, we have Titan Quest. And I'm not gonna lie, I got a soft spot for this one. This is probably the first game I ever played where I saw the progression system and pretty much instantly knew I was gonna really enjoy leveling up in this game. It has a really fucking cool progression system, especially for the time it came out, which was like, what, 2006? Holy shit, that was 18 years ago. Oh God, that's like a whole fucking adult person. I could drive when that game came out. I'm so old. So the basic premise of Titan Quest is basically the gods and the humans don't really get along at the moment. They're having issues because the humans don't like how the gods have been treating them, and they're kind of selfish pieces of shit like gods normally are in these types of games, and the humans and gods are at war. So the gods sent down all sorts of fucking monsters and shit to just flood the earth and wipe out the human, not to wipe them out, but basically teach them a lesson and have them come back to worshiping the gods. You play a character called the Titan Slayer who gets involved in this big plot involving like an ancient race of mystical magic users, and it's all kinds of stuff. But essentially, throughout the game, you have to travel through several different mythologies to fight gods and titans and mythological creatures and heroes from other mythologies and shit, and it's pretty cool. The selling point of the game is just all the shit that it covers. When the game originally released, they had 3 acts. Each act covered a different part of the world and a different mythology. So in Act 1, you were in Greece, and you dealt with Greek mythology. In Act 2, you were in Egypt, and shocker, you dealt with Egyptian mythology. Then in 3, it was China. But the game, unlike most games, still releases expansion packs. Like, the game's old as fuck. The last expansion pack they released was just a couple of years ago. There's been like 4 expansion packs for this game released over the last almost 20 years. And in those expansion packs, you take on Norse mythology, you go to fucking Atlantis at one point, you fight biblical demons from Judeo-Christianity. By adding in Titan Quest to our little Crisis on Infinite Earth scenario, you're adding like 5 or 6 real world mythologies, just chucking them on in there. Now, don't get me wrong, they're not the exact same. In the Titan Quest universe, all of these different mythologies all exist on the same planet. So it's not like every single one of their creation myths can be true. You know, like not every single one of these gods created Earth and created a universe and all that. So the power levels and the stories that are told within it aren't quite the same as real world mythology, but they're all based on real world mythology. And the Titan Slayer throughout the game has to fight through all of this shit. He kills all sorts of fucking people, from Hades to Loki to Surtur to all kinds of other crazy gods among other types of mythologies. So there's a couple of things in Titan Quest that are going to help them in this particular scenario, and there's quite a few things that are going to hurt them. For the things that are going to hurt them, it's basically that the powers and the abilities that exist within the universe aren't really that brokenly hacksy like some of the other ones we're going to get into. They do have things like mind manipulation, death manipulation, all that different kind of stuff, but it's nothing that every other RPG isn't going to have for the most part. Really, the thing that makes Titan Quest so powerful is that the character's base power is really, really high. Like I said, the dude fights tons and tons of gods. I mean, in Act 3, he beats Typhon, who is so powerful that he scares all the other gods, and the gods don't want to fuck with him. And there's like 10 fucking acts across the whole story. Like, you just started. He continues onward and just gets more and more powerful as he fights greater and greater threats. By the time you get to the final boss in the final expansion, his name is the Suns. He's the living embodiment of all of the stars in the sky fused into a person. Every single star. I don't know how powerful that is personally, but it's probably pretty fucking powerful. But even with stuff like that, it's not gonna make that much of a difference, because the last 2 series that we're gonna go over has things that are arguably more powerful. So the thing that's really gonna help Titan Quest do well is the Titan Slayer, just him, one dude. And this is for a couple of reasons. With all the other games I'm talking about, the story is written in a way where all of the main characters are fighting together, working for a common goal. So like, when you play Diablo, you can play Diablo one player, right? You can get through the whole game, and you could defeat Diablo or Mephisto or whatever fucking final boss you have to fight in whatever game. And you can do it by yourself. But canonically within the lore, that's not actually what happened. What happened is all of the classes came together to fight that person. So like in Diablo 3, in order to beat Diablo, all of those classes fought together to do it. The Barbarian, the Crusader, the Witch Doctor, the Monk, all of them. Every single one. And that's the case for the other 2 as well. all of the Godwoken came together to overcome the mission that they had to fight against. All of the exiles had to overcome the story of the game that they were in. That's not the case for Titan Quest. In Titan Quest, the Titan Slayer is by himself. The game is written and reacts to you as if you're playing one person. You are the Titan Slayer. You can play multiplayer and other people can enter your game, but the game just kind of ignores them, and because of that, it's not really that hard to argue that Titan Slayer is strong as shit. In the Titan Quest universe, Titan Slayer is the strongest being that exists within it. When you look at something like Diablo, all of the classes had to come together to gang up on Diablo. Diablo's the strongest character in that entire universe. When you play Path of Exile and you have to fight against the Elder at the end of that fucking expansion, again, it's under the assumption that it was 6 fucking dudes fighting one dude. The Elder would be the most powerful person there, not your protagonist. Within Titan Quest, the Titan Slayer is more skilled at fighting than Achilles. He's physically stronger than Hercules. He has overcome all of the gods by himself. By the end of the game, the war between the humans and the gods is over because nobody wants to fuck with the Titan Slayer. The gods stopped sending monsters to the earth to fuck with them because one fucking human slapped them upside their head and said, hey, chill out. And they were just like, yes, sir. Yes, sir. In terms of skill level and raw power, it's really hard to not come to the determination that Titan Slayer is probably the most skilled protagonist out of all the characters across all of these games. He's basically Kratos before we actually got Kratos, right? Because in the first God of War game, which did come out at the time that this game came out, he only killed Ares. He doesn't kill all the gods and pantheons and shit until years after this game released. This game, before it had any expansions come out in its initial release, took out 3 fucking pantheons. Kratos just got finished with his second pantheon last fucking year. And he's the guy we always think of when we talk about wiping out a pantheon. He don't have shit on someone like Titan Slayer. But combat skill and fighting suns is only going to get you so far. In fact, Hacks is really only going to get you so far too, because as I said, most of these series have all of the basics when it comes to Hacksy abilities. The thing that's really going to help these universes is those really weird, strange powers that no other series really has, you know? It's always the interesting shit where you start getting into these sort of debates with people where you're like, oh, my character would win because of this. And then you're like, oh, well, this character has this. You're like, the fuck is that? And then you have to go into detail to explain how it works. Or like, that is so interesting and weird. And so I don't have anything against that because it's fucking weird. They just don't do that in the series that I'm talking about. That's really where the victory lies. Where the shit's so odd that the other universes don't have an answer for it. And when it comes to Titan Slayer, he has 2. So in Titan Quest, there's a bunch of different masteries. Most of the masteries are nothing to write home about, right? You got like the tanky mastery and the ranger kind of mastery and the fucking elemental magic mastery and all different masteries. But there's 2 of them that are so odd and unique that it's going to help the Titan Slayer defeat a large percentage of things that he comes up against in these other universes. And that would be the mastery of spirit and dream. The mastery of spirit, basically in the game, it just allows you to do a bunch of necromancer type shit, right? You can raise things from the dead, you have death manipulation, you can bring things back to life and resurrect things and all that kind of stuff. Nothing really all that special in the game. However, in the lore, when you actually read what the mastery of spirit actually means, it is a complete control and domination of the concepts of life and death. Beings with mastery over spirit magic can stop themselves and others from dying, bring themselves back from the dead, absorb the life force of those around them, destroy souls and spirits and ghosts and ghouls and all that, just rip them right out of the air and control them any way they see fit. It's like being a necromancer with life manipulation, death manipulation, soul manipulation, absorption, and a bunch of other crazy powers all rolled into this one sort of little thing. Having said this, there is a weakness to it because at the end of the final boss, after you beat the suns, you beat him and he turns this little fireball and then a god comes down from the sky and tells you that you can't actually kill him permanently because he's tied directly to the concept of life. So as long as there is some life somewhere, you can't actually permanently kill the sun. So while he does have complete domination over life and death, that does not apparently go to actually controlling the concept of it itself, or at least not to the extent that he would be able to fucking kill a dude who's literally that concept itself. So it's not that powerful, but it's still pretty cool. The broken ass power that I like though is Dream. Again, Dream is a mastery, nothing really that special. But in the lore, Dream manipulation allows you to take anything that you imagine and fabricate it into reality. It is reality manipulation that is limited only by your imagination. You can also pull shit out of the nightmare realm and the dream realm, which is other people's imaginations. So basically, if it's been dreamed up or thought of, you can utilize it as a fucking weapon. And you can use it to bend and shape reality around you. It's so clearly the most broken shit ever. There's no reason whatsoever that mastery should exist side by side with the hunting mastery, which allows you to use bows and spears. How are these even fucking comparable? Now, as far as the characters within Titan Quest goes, there's a lot of different ones that can make a lot of different cool decisions. The gods only really care about being worshipped and ruling over humans. With them getting thrown into another universe, they're probably just going to keep doing that. They're going to keep trying to get people to worship them and subjugate mortals in any new universe that they come into. Giving them this whole new batch of humans that they can just fuck with is going to be chef's fucking kiss. Titan Slayer himself doesn't have much of a personality. He's really just a guy who sees all the warring and shit going on and decides to like pick up a sword and go deal with it. And throughout the game, he gets stronger and stronger and stronger and gains more mastery, and then he eventually can fight gods and shit. But he's basically just like this young dude who's like, I don't like where the world is going. I'm gonna go out and do something about it. He doesn't have any more character other than that. He's basically just hero character. The only real difference he has when compared to like the Diablo heroes is that they are fated to be in this situation forever. And he's not. He chooses to. So in summary, what you're going to end up having with Titan Quest and it being thrown into our little Crisis on Infinite Earth situation is a bunch of gods who are mostly dicks who just want to come and subjugate mortals, along with a ton of different human characters who are basically like shonen protagonists. Because there's this sort of culture in Titan Quest where all these young dudes are like picking up spears and swords and shit and are like, I'm going to go kill the gods. Fuck them. It kind of has this sort of shonen lean to it where they're all like, you know, I want to be the one who does it, the one who takes out Zeus. And they all go out on this quest to acquire power and strength so they can fight the gods. So you're basically going to have a bunch of super gun-ho young warriors getting thrown into the mix who all have murder boners for god-like beings, essentially, and who are going to instantly distrust any non-mortal, non-human being who tries to come in and be like, hey guys, you should serve me. Yeah, they don't do that. Like, they're going to be instant enemies with angels, demons, gods, anything like that that's not mortal. They're going to have an instant hate boner for them. And then obviously Titan Slayer himself, who is so powerful that he can keep them both in check. So, you know, that'll be fun. Next up, we have the Path of Exile universe. Now, let me be clear, this is just Path of Exile 1. As of the recording of this video, Path of Exile 2 Early Access just released yesterday, and the whole game doesn't release until next year. So if you're watching this months and months from now and you have no idea why I haven't brought up anything in Path of Exile 2, that's why. The next two picks on this list, both Path of Exile and Divinity, have so much lore. They're so fucking packed with shit. I could literally make whole YouTube channels that are just devoted to the lore of Divinity and Path of Exile, with thousands and thousands of hours of content. So there's just no getting around it. I'm not gonna have everything in this video. I could literally just do a character deep dive on anyone, Maven, the Shaper, and it would probably be the length of this video by itself. So just take this video as like a basic summary of some points that I think are relevant to this particular topic, okay? Okay. The basic premise of Path of Exile is you play a criminal in this very authoritarian, theocratic society, and they decide to punish you for your crimes by shipping you off to the lands of Weircrest so that you may suffer there and atone for your sins. And Weircrest fucking sucks. Basically, every bad thing you can imagine that would happen to a place has happened to Weircrest. The entire land is filled with fucking cannibals. There's a goddamn zombie apocalypse, as anyone who dies there rises from the dead like 3 or 4 days later and then starts going on a killing spree, eating everybody they come into contact with. Disease and monsters and cultists run rampant across the entire land. And the fact that it's just filled with fucking people who are just criminals and assholes means that basically every normal person you come into contact with is kind of a piece of shit. Now, not everybody's evil. There actually are genuinely good people here, but they are the mass minority. The thing that makes this series so compelling to me is, well, yes, the combat and also the amazing progression system, but mostly the world they've built here. Out of all the series that I'm using in this video, this is the most unique one by far. When you look at something like Diablo, it's definitely its own thing and it's doing its own thing, but it's clearly very heavily inspired by the Judeo-Christian religion, right down to the main villain of the franchise being Diablo, which is just Spanish for devil. If you look at Titan Quest, that's just a bunch of already existing mythologies, and if you look at Divinity, that's mostly its own thing, but it's also very heavily inspired by things like Dungeons and Dragons, and the inspirations are pretty clear. When you look at Path of Exiles, it's not so much. You'll see little things throughout the game where this is clearly inspired by H.P. Lovecraft, this is kind of Christian-like, sort of, this is from like African mythologies and Middle Eastern mythologies, but it takes all these different mythologies and religions and belief systems and it changes them, alters them, moves them around in such a way that the world feels very much its own thing. Like, this universe has a massive, massive pantheon of gods, and each of those pantheons are different depending on the culture, because the game also has multiple cultures that differ depending on country of origins, and all these gods have their own names and histories and how they became gods and stories around them that are completely unique to Path of Exiles. They're not using anything from any actual mythology, just little inspirations here and there, and it makes discovering the lore and the world of this universe really interesting because you're actually discovering something new. I mean, they really put some effort into the world building here. It doesn't feel like a backdrop that could just be easily swapped out with something else as an excuse for the action to take place. I can actually imagine full-on novels being written of stories that exist within this world at different points in the timeline and in different places in the world. I mean, it's really well done, which is for the most part unheard of for an ARPG. It's a really cool, depressing, dark fantasy world that even if you really don't like the gameplay, you still might want to play through it just to see what else the world has to offer and to explore this very unique environment. Now, as for the power levels and what the characters within the universe can do, I really can't talk about it. It has the opposite problem with quotations, that Diablo does, where there's just too much shit here for me to talk about. I honestly believe that the different powers you can get in this game and the build variety that exists here is limitless. I think that if every single person on the planet played this game for 1,000 hours, fully leveled up, got everything in the entire game, and made their own little build, there would not be two people with the same build. There's just so much shit here. In fact, it's so much that people have actually complained that it's too complicated and there's too much shit to have to think about when you're leveling up your character. I don't think that that's ever actually a problem. I mean, if you're gonna have a problem, it's a pretty fucking good one to have. You can never have too much variety in your character builds, but it is a common complaint that I've heard about this game. I mean, for fuck's sake, this is the progression tree. Look at it. That's insane! That doesn't even include the massive variety of the fucking gem system. There's something called a gem system where there's a couple different types of gems. You get red gems, green gems, blue gems. They all do different shit. And within your armor and weapons, you have different slots that could fit different colored gems. And each of the gems have just sort of random different little effects. Some are substantial, some are not so substantial. But the fact that all your armor and weapons have all of these different gem slots essentially means you can basically do whatever. For instance, when I first started the game, I got a gem that allowed me to use an ability called Molten Strike, which is when I hit somebody, it makes a bunch of lava balls fly off their body and hit people around me, like a constant AoE attack every time I swing my sword. Then I put another gem on my shield that made it so that every attack that I hit somebody with causes bleeding damage. Then I put another gem that made it so that anyone that I kill with my sword strikes comes back as a zombie. So now, every time I hit with my sword, it creates a lava shower in the area. Everyone that lava shower hits lights on fire and also gets bleeding damage. Then when they die, they come back as zombies, and I have myself a little zombie army. That's only me using 3 slots. There are whole swords and shields and armor plates that have 3 slots by themselves. By the time you get to the end of the game, you have so many fucking slot possibilities and so many different crazy upgradable gems and stuff. Each of your attacks is just doing the most insane shit. The game is known as a game that once you get to the end, you're basically killing everybody in one hit. The developer of the game has said multiple times he's okay with giving you the freedom to break their fucking game. He wants you to have full freedom to do literally anything you want, any kind of crazy over-the-top build that's possible. So I can't do what I did for Titan Quest and just talk about some powers that he has, because I'd be fucking talking forever. There's damn near no limit to it. You're talking about tens of thousands of gems, millions if not billions of combinations. And again, this fucking level up tree. Listen, you can look at any of the other game series that I have on this list and see any of the hacks or crazy powers they have, and chances are it either exists in Path of Exile or you can build it through a combination of different gems. I mean, shit, There's literally an ability in this game called Destruction, where when you kill something, their bodies get completely fucking atomized and they cease to exist. That's actually in the game. The only real benefit it has in the game is that when you kill certain creatures that have some sort of after-death effect, like maybe they'll explode in poison, or they'll come back to life after you kill them again. The Destruction ability removes that as a possibility because there's nothing to blow up or to come back. You fucking atomize them. And you can take that ability and blend that with some other crazy powers, and I don't know. Use your imagination. That's how the game is built. So given that it's kind of a pointless effort to try and come up with what powers exist in this game via gameplay, I'm just gonna go over a couple little things that happen in the game lore that sort of gives you a general power level of the universe. And with that, I'm gonna be disagreeing with a lot of people who I personally believe like to wank the shit out of this universe. There's a large percentage of people who talk about Path of Exiles who believes it's infinitely multiversal and omniversal and all that. It's not. The reason why they think that is because there's this character called the Shaper, and the Shaper built this thing known as the Atlas of Worlds, which allows him to create universes, and it connects all the different universes together. And basically they're like, okay, well, since he created all of these different universes, he should be multiversal, and he has power over all of these universes, which are stated to be infinite in number. So basically he can create infinite universes. You get it, you get it. The problem is that shows a complete lack of understanding of what the Atlas of Worlds is, and really just the story of the Shaper. First off, the Shaper didn't create the Atlas of Worlds, he reconstructed it. It already existed before him. We don't know who built it. We never see who built it. We don't know any of the gods personally in the game. You don't come into contact with any of them. They're just these crazy cosmic horror type creatures that exist in the ether somewhere. The Shaper was just a normal dude who found this broken thing, started putting it together, and then as he was putting it together, it started causing all sorts of crazy shit to happen around him, and then he eventually sort of went mad and became the Shaper, and then started using it to create a bunch of worlds and shit. But the Atlas of Worlds' purpose is to connect all of the different infinite universes together and also create new worlds. That's its purpose. That's its only purpose. This is where the confusion lies, because a lot of people do this thing that scalers like to do, where they'll be like, okay, this guy can create a universe, so he could take the energy necessary to create that universe and then utilize it in like a physical attack against somebody. No, he can't. The Atlas of Worlds is not a weapon and cannot be used to damage people. The Shaper using it to create a universe does not mean he has the power to destroy that universe, or he could take that Atlas of Worlds and fucking smack you in the face with it and erase your whole shit. Like, that's not how it works. The Shaper does have a lot of really cool abilities and magical abilities. He can open up portals to other worlds. He can use different forms of like void damage and shit with black holes and all that crazy ass shit. He does a lot of cool stuff. He is not a multiversal, infinite universe destroying being. I'm sorry, he's not. The highest power that we have evidence for in the actual series comes from a character known as Maven. Maven is a progenitor, which is basically, layman's terms, I guess like a demigod. And the biggest feat that Maven is said to have is that in the lore it states that if two progenitors are to fight each other, there is no getting around it. Their fight would destroy all of reality. Now, is that reality the universe that the game takes place in, or all of reality is in like every single universe, even other realities? You know what I mean? I don't know. The game doesn't actually specify. So what you're going to end up getting with Path of Exiles being chucked in our sort of Crisis on Infinite Earth situation is a infinite size world with nearly limitless, uncaring cosmic gods, a bunch of progenitors who are assholes who just like fucking with everybody, a hopeless, depressing, disease-filled universe that's filled with cultists, governments that are controlled by religious extremists, constant warring, the fucking lands of Weircrest that just have all kinds of crazy shit from zombies. I didn't even talk about the fact that when you die on Weircrest, your soul leaves your body, and then a bunch of like other weird spirits come up and grab your soul and drag it to fucking somewhere. Every person that dies, this happens to. There's no resurrection in Weircrest. It doesn't exist. It can't. Because the soul is instantly attacked by other dark spirits and brought somewhere. We don't know where, because we don't know of any heaven or hell in this universe. They don't talk about it. So dying on Weircrest is permanent death, where resurrection, something that quite a few of these universes really love doing, doesn't do anything. It's literally an effect that happens in the game. When you kill a dude, one soul comes out and then another soul grabs it and pulls it down. When you kill a boss, a big soul comes out and like 30 fucking souls show up out of nowhere, gangbang it, and then drag it down. I didn't even think about that before, but that's gonna be a fucking issue. Yeah, throwing Path of Exile in this situation is just like, hey, you wanna make shit real depressing real fast? This is the way to do it. Last up, but certainly not least, we have the Divinity Universe. What the fuck was I thinking? Why did I put this universe here? It's so big! Okay, remember what I just said about Path of Exiles, how it's like super dense and lore and shit? Okay, it's still just one game. Divinity is a whole series that's been running for like 22 years, and there is so much story here. There is more than 10,000 years of history in the Divinity universe. This consists of several different wars, from the Wizard Wars to the Dragon Campaign, to a war between Chaos and the Gods, to several others. You got everything from ancient gods that existed way before the actual timeline of the games even take place. You have the 7 gods, each of which created a different race, plus an 8th god known as Chaos that created demons and the demon realm. You have the god King, who was like the god of all the Eternals, and the Eternals were like an ancient, uber powerful race, and the Eternals, many of the Eternals became the 7 gods that we know of today. And then you have factions like the Divine Order and the Black Ring, and on and on and on, and there's just so much shit to cover. No, I'm not doing it. I don't want to do it. Why did I put this universe on here? It's not even an ARPG. Well, the answer to that is obvious. I put it on here for the same reason I put anything on any video that I make, because I like it. And while it is not an ARPG necessarily, it is a tactical turn-based RPG. Steam does have it listed as a tactical turn-based RPG with ARPG mechanics. So I'm fucking counting it. Now, for all the other universes on this list, I gave you a basic premise of the story and history and all that you need to know to kind of understand the world a little bit. Here, I can't really do that because there is no overarching story across all of the Divinity games. Like I said, each game takes place at a random point in time within this 10,000 year period that cover a totally different point in history. It would literally be like me expecting you to give me the plot of the human race in the last 10,000 years of its existence. It's not really an answerable question, because the plot of the human race would have been different in 1945 than it would have been 8,000 years ago. Every game in the series covers a different time period with vastly different characters and a different enemy and a different challenge to overcome, and really just a different kind of game. Like, the Divinity series even has multiple genres. Divinity Original Sin 1 and 2 is a tactical turn-based RPG with ARPG elements. But if you go to like Divinity Dragon Commander, it's a fucking RTS where you turn into a dragon and just like lay waste the whole armies. Totally fucking different genre and thing of games. If I didn't tell you the title of the games and had you play them, you wouldn't even know they took place in the same universe. So I kind of, sort of, for the most part, have to skip the first section of this video where I kind of give you an idea of what it's about. Just know, it's a very, very well-written, very complex world with complex politics and religions, and characters with a lot of depth that is clearly at least somewhat inspired by Dungeons & Dragons, although personally, I actually like the world of Divinity a little better than Dungeons & Dragons. For one, I think it's generally better written, and for two, I just think it deals with a lot of concepts in a lot more interesting of a way. So definitely check out the series if you haven't, but yeah, I'm not giving you a 6-hour-long lore video on fucking Divinity. That shit ain't happening. For the purpose of this video, all you really need to know is that in the Divinity universe, there are actually 3 known universes. There might be more, but we only really deal with 3 in the story of the games. You have the Demon Realm, the Void, and the Human Realm. The Demon Realm is run by Chaos. The regular world where all of the normal people and where the story takes place are run by the 7, or the 7 gods. Each one of those gods responsible for the creation of the 7 races. You got humans, elves, orcs, all that different kind of stuff. And then you have the Void, which is run by the God King. The God King, Chaos, and the 7 gods were all originally Eternals, who were the first race and the most powerful race. They're mostly wiped out at the moment. There was like a whole war and shit involving that. But essentially they used this thing called the Source and acquired a shit ton of power, became gods, and then created everything else and did all kinds of fuck shit. And like I said, the game is about different things, but a big aspect of it is how the Demon Realm and the Void don't really get along with the normal realm, and they keep coming in and doing all kinds of shit. Because the God King, who runs the Void, just wants to take shit over, and he's like the most powerful dude ever. And Chaos is more close to the power level of the 7 gods, but he's also a dick, so they sort of outcasted him and don't want to have anything to do with him. Many of the games involve something from either the demon realm or the void coming in and fucking with the main world, and some person somewhere in the normal universe having to rise up and deal with it. There's way more to it than that. That is a massive, massive oversimplification, but it is what it is. As far as the power level of the universe goes, it is very, 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 very high. And that's mainly because of how magic and source works. Magic is not actually magic the way magic is in most fantasy series. Magic actually comes from a thing called source. Source is, well, the source of all creation and reality and everything that is or can be. It's all the source. And the way the power system of the universe works is that there are certain characters who can tap into the source. These people are called sorcerers. Get it? Like the source of something. It's actually spelt that way. Sorcerer. It's a pun. And because of this, you can't compare a sorcerer from Divinity to a sorcerer in pretty much any other fiction, because they literally can tap into the source of. They're essentially gods. The only thing that limits a sorcerer in Divinity is their mastery of the source. People who have full mastery of the source, the most skilled sorcerers, are literally gods. Those are people like the Seven or the Godwoken, who are people who are touched by God to be able to use the source. There are magic users that exist within the universe that are not sorcerers, that cannot tap into the source, but it's fine. They're fine. They're good. Those aren't the ones that are going to be the big problem. There are a sizable number of these sorcerers, and when they have a high enough mastery in source, they can basically do whatever the fuck they want, with damn near no limits. I'm talking about all the obvious shit. Create universes, destroy universe, erase people from existence, whatever. They're gods. But to be honest with you, that's not the thing that's going to make this universe so hard to deal with, because pretty much all of these universes have some godlike being that can do anything they want. Divinity as a universe does have a bit of an advantage here, because the characters that get to this point can be just like bullshit average humans or elves. It's just all based on whether or not they are tied into the source. It's almost like kind of maybe a Jedi sort of thing, kind of, where like, I don't know, because they keep changing shit with the Jedi, because it used to be that only certain people could tap into the Force, and now it's like everybody can tap in, but maybe everybody can't. Just depends on who's writing the story. Doesn't matter. You know what? It's nothing like Star Wars. To ignore me. But the thing that really makes the universe so dangerous is, for one, how creative and interesting a lot of their powers are, but also like just how the rules of combat work in the game. So, for example, in the game, you have magic armor and then you have regular armor, and both of these armors are enchanted, despite the fact that armor and magic armor are separate. They're both basically kind of magic. Doesn't matter. The thing that makes it bullshit and very, very hard to deal with is how they work. Magic armor does not do jack shit against physical attacks. If somebody has magic armor and you go up and you stab them, you'll stab them. What the magic armor does do is defend against all forms of magic. So, you know, if you have your magic armor and someone shoots a fireball at you, it's not gonna fucking hurt you, as long as that fireball is a magical attack. But it goes a little bit farther than that, because as long as this magic armor is up, that person cannot be affected by any magic in any way, under any circumstances at all. And I'm talking about literally any status effect, nothing. They can't be mind controlled, they can't be poisoned, they can't be anything. Just name a fucking magic status effect. Silence, you know how silence is a very common RPG move that stops people from using magic? Well, if they have magic armor, it can't work. No hacks at all, if it's done through magic, can be done. And the armor, which again is also enchanted, it's not just like a regular armor, they just kind of call it armor. Same thing. No physical ailment can be done to the person as long as that armor is still there. They can't be knocked down, they can't trip and fall, they cannot be affected under any circumstances as long as this armor is there. So every single fight that you get into with any person across all of Divinity, you have to take out their magic armor and their enchanted regular armor in order to actually affect them with any type of hacks. This is so fucking broken, because all of these series have hacks that they can use on each other. Only Divinity has this good of a protection for it. If you go over to Path of Exile, they have defenses for certain hacks. You can up your resistance in certain types of damage and, you know, up your resistance to certain types of mind ailments and things like this, but you don't have a straight up immunity to it. The Divinity universe does, as long as the magic shielding is up. Now, you can damage the magic shielding and have it go away, and then you can use whatever kind of fucking spells you want. But that is still an extra step that all the other universes have to do against Divinity characters. The Divinity characters don't have to worry about when it comes to the others. A complete immunity to all hacks done through physical and magical means across the board is kind of a crazy fucking advantage to put in this situation. And the game gives you a ton of different options and ways of mystically somehow regaining your different armors back. Being in combat in this game is essentially just you constantly trying to keep your different armor types up while taking away the other teams faster than they can take yours away. Because in this game, if you lose your armor, you're basically fucking done immediately, because almost every magical ability in some way has some kind of hacks tied to it that's gonna instantly fuck you up. I guarantee you run out of magic armor this round, you're getting turned into a fucking chicken next round. And that's it. Your character's done. You lost the fucking fight. It's over. This is a game where health really isn't all that important. If you had a choice between increasing your magic armor, or health, you're not going to increase your fucking health. Because so many different powers and abilities completely fucking bypass health. Now, in the Divinity universe, this isn't as broken as it sounds, because literally everyone has magic armor and armor. Everyone's playing on the same playing field. Everybody has crazy over-the-top hacksy abilities that won't work on their opponents until they can work through that magic armor and armor to actually affect them. So like I said, it makes this sort of race, this push and pull of where everyone's trying to fuck up everybody else's armor. But if you put the Divinity universe up against these other three universes that don't have that, they're going to be at a massive advantage, because all of these other universes' hacksy abilities aren't going to do shit to the Divinity people for at least the first couple minutes of the fight until they can work their way through that. And for the first time ever, the Divinity people are going to meet some people who have no defense against their hexes like they would in the Divinity universe. It's super, super fucking unfair and sort of breaks the challenge almost. It's so fucking broken that I almost don't even have to talk about all the other crazy shit. Like the Void, and how the Void just seeps in this constant corruption, almost like the Doom demonic corruption, where people will start turning into Void monsters and going insane and doing all this kind of stuff. I almost don't have to talk about the God King, and how he's capable of completely wiping out all of reality instantly, or the Divine, how the Divine is chosen by the gods and basically becomes almost as powerful as the God King himself. Or the fucking dragon magic that allows people to literally turn into dragons and just lay waste to fucking countries like it's not even there. There's so much shit in this series, just so much over the top, broken ass shit. The main weakness that it has is that the universe itself is relatively small. Like I said, chances are there are more universes than just the three we know of, but I can't really do much with that because those are the three that we've seen and we know of. And as far as that goes, it makes the Divinity verse a lot smaller than some of the other series we've talked about. It's smaller than Diablo, and it's smaller than Path of Exile. When you have characters in those series that can just straight up erase infinite timelines and shit, it kind of makes the possibility of like the God King destroying 3 universes not really that impressive. But I really don't think it's a stretch to say that if we equalize stats across the board, Divinity would fucking win this easily. Their powers and magic and abilities are just so fucking broken. You have characters who can heal from blood touching them, including their own blood. So like you cut a dude and his own blood will heal him. And if that's not enough, they can literally make it rain blood on top of them at all times so that they can just constantly heal. There's characters who can take a spectral chain and link themselves to another person, and any damage that's done to that person will happen to the person who he's linked the chain with. You have dozens and dozens of schools of magic that just let you do all kinds of just crazy, wild shit. Like I said, Source in this game is just everything. You can do anything. Now, in terms of the characters and the personality of the characters and all that different stuff and how they will interact with the world in that way, this is actually the most defined universe of all of them because it's a very, very deep character-driven RPG. You get to create your own character if you want to, or you just play as one of the characters that's already there. They have a set personality, a set backstory, set character arcs that you can decide based on like the decisions you make and shit. However, after the game is over and the sequel games come out, they always choose a canon choice for everything. So people have like set personalities. And in terms of that, it's all over the place. There are good characters, bad characters, gray characters. It's a pretty well thought out, believable universe where every character is kind of different. It's not something like Diablo where I could basically just tell you this is the fucking goals and desires of all the main characters. They all share the same thing. It doesn't really work that way. The Red Prince is much, much different than a character like Lucian, who's much, much different than a character like the Dragon Commander, who's much, much different than a character like Ifan Ben Mezd, who's the fucking man, by the way. Also, Not really relevant necessarily to the topic of conversation, but if you ever play Divinity Original Sin 2, don't make a custom character. Just play with one of the original characters that they have. It makes the story so much better. Because when you play with a custom character, you feel very detached from the world. And if you play with one of the original characters, they have like a bunch of these extra side quests and storylines, and characters will know you when they see you because you have a history with them. It just makes the gameplay so much deeper than it is when you make a custom character. I know a lot of people play the Divinity games who've only played with custom characters. You're missing out. The game's way better when you don't. So what you end up getting by taking the Divinity universe and tossing it into our little Crisis on Infinite Earths thing is, strangely enough, the most well put together universe of all of these universes. I mean, all of these universes are fucking falling apart, right? Path of Exile, Titan Quest, and Diablo are just worlds that are in constant fucking turmoil and war and chaos. And Divinity, by comparison, has a lot of wars and a lot of bad shit going on within it. But, you know, for the average person, it's not really that bad. Over the course of 10,000 years, you got like, I don't know, 5 or 6 wars, a couple of different conflicts here and there, a couple of different big issues that they have to deal with. But it's not just like constant horror and death and awfulness. It's the most optimistic world of all 4 in this challenge. Also, most of the time, the issues that they run into aren't quite so exaggeratedly over the top end of the world type scenario. You do have characters that can blow up universes and things like that, but generally it's a little smaller stakes. You know, it's not the complete destruction of an infinite multiverse that they have to deal with. But having said that, it's also the universe with likely the most broken hacks, as well as some of the strongest defenses against other hacks that exist across this whole challenge. So it's definitely an interesting one to throw in here. But that's it. We've gone through all 4 of the universes. And we've arrived at the final section of this video, the Showdown. Okay, so first off, we have to correctly pin down exactly what a Crisis on Infinite Earths situation would even look like. And basically what it is you take every single universe and timeline and everything all across all of existence and all of these different game universes, and then you just combine them all together so it's one universe now. This wouldn't just be us opening portals between all the different universes so they're connected now. They literally are one universe. It's just one space-time continuum. Considering that many of these universes are just infinite in size, and there are infinite universes in a couple of these game universes, that would mean that this new universe we've created would also be infinite in size. And it would just be a fucking clusterfuck of all these different people coming into the same place. Now, one thing that's important to note with this situation is it's not really going to be like all of these different equal-sized universes coming together, because Diablo and Path of Exiles have infinite universes that are infinite in size with infinite timelines. Divinity and Titan Quest do not. Titan Quest is one universe. Divinity is 3 universes. Divinity and Titan Quest universe is basically going to be 2 little drops in the fucking ocean that is Path of Exiles and Diablo. So starting off with Diablo, this one's kind of interesting in how not interesting it is, if that makes any fucking sense. Because Diablo is an infinite number of universes and infinite timelines, but they're all destined to basically do the exact same thing no matter what, it means that throwing in all of those different worlds isn't really going to matter. The only thing that's really going to matter is the fact that you're literally having an infinite number of every single thing that exists. Dealing with Diablo in this situation is not actually dealing with Diablo because, you know, there's way more of them now. In fact, killing Diablo isn't going to do as much as it normally does in the Diablo universe. In Diablo universe, you kill Diablo, his soul goes back down to hell, and then he has to try and work his way back to Earth again. But in a Crisis on Infinite Earth situation, hell is a part of this one massive universe. If you kill Diablo, he can just come back to life in the main universe that he is. So he'll just keep resurrecting over and over and over again. In fact, every demon and angel will continuously resurrect every time you kill them, instantly, forever. I know this is the second time I'm bringing up Doom again. I don't mean to keep bringing up Doom, but it's kind of a Doom sort of situation where you have a infinite number of demons constantly invading your world that you can't fucking stop, and it doesn't matter how many times you kill them. Just like with Doom, you kill them and their soul they just re-come back. Literally the exact same situation is going to happen here. I will say though, there are certain ways that they can be dealt with. For instance, any demon that finds himself on Weirdcrest, once they are killed, will not be able to come back, because anyone who dies on Weirdcrest has their soul just fucking brutalized and destroyed, essentially. Other souls and spirits just show up and attack it and fucking rip it apart. It's crazy. They take it somewhere. I don't know where the fuck it goes. But like I said, with Path of Exiles, there is no mention of heaven or hell. So What is happening with these fucking souls? There's no reason to believe that if Diablo died on Weirdcrest, that his soul would be able to find a way to fight him off and escape, because none of the other massively multiversal fucking beings that die on Weirdcrest can do it, so why the fuck would Diablo be able to do it? His soul wouldn't be able to resurrect. But that's not really a big deal, because Weirdcrest is just one land in a now infinite-sized universe, so like, what are the odds that any Diablo is even going to arrive to Weirdcrest? Why would you even want to fucking go there? It kind of sucks to be there. But yeah, really all Diablo adds to the universe is an infinite number of demons who will infinitely resurrect the moment they're killed, and it's going to be a problem, but it's not going to be as big as a problem as you would think. It's more like a numbers versus power thing, because even the strongest demons in Diablo don't compare to the most powerful characters in any of the other 3 series. And 2 of those series, Exiles and Titan Quest, are universes that are already in constant war with a ton of monsters. If Diablo shows up around the Titan Quest areas, they're not even really going to notice a difference. They're constantly at war with the gods who are constantly throwing fucking monsters at them and shit. The demons are just going to be a new kind of monster that shows up, and there's really no evidence that those demons will be any harder to fight than any of the monsters that you have to fight in Titan Quest. Like I said, there's a whole culture in Titan Quest of a bunch of young warriors who just grab swords and go to fucking kill the gods. This isn't really anything new for them. The Exile universe isn't necessarily a universe that's in constant war, but it is in constant turmoil. Like I said, there are many different factions who are warring with one another. Weirdcrest is just covered in cannibals and horrible shit like that. I don't think adding demons in the mix is really gonna change all that much about how they behave, because they're already constantly being attacked by other people and things and shit. I think it's going to affect certain areas of the universe really badly, and other areas aren't gonna fucking care. Like, Weirdcrest isn't gonna care. It's already fucked. But like, if you start attacking the other countries that are just controlled by different churches and sort of living a normal yet authoritarian life, they're probably gonna get wiped out by the demons. It really just depends on where the demons go. One thing that will be a serious problem for some of these universes is the fact that the Diablo demons and angels and humans and everybody from Diablo are constantly fated to war forever, no matter what. Now that the universes are all one, that's not going to suddenly go away. So you're going to have characters, say, from Titan Quest who are not fated to be in a constant war, and then characters from Diablo who will be fated to be in a constant war. So even if the Titan Slayer is way more powerful than Diablo, which he is, will he even be able to actually kill him with that superior power? Because he's fated to constantly fight him. Like, in theory, the Titan Slayer could just kill Diablo, and then when his soul leaves his body, the Titan Slayer could just take the soul and destroy it, rip it apart, absorb it, do whatever the fuck he wants to, because he has spirit magic. That's something that he can do. But if Diablo is fated to constantly fight no matter what and to keep doing it over and over again, will fate somehow stop him from being able to use that power? Will fate make it so that Titan Slayer will never come into contact with Diablo to actually stop him from doing this? How will fate interact with it to sort of alter this from happening? Because Titan Slayer doesn't have fate manipulation. So the power level difference doesn't really matter. And that should be the case across the entire crisis, involving every single character that is in the Diablo universe. The only universe that can fight against this is, unsurprisingly, Divinity. Divinity actually has the ability to manipulate fate. This means that they should be the only universe that's actually capable of permanently putting down Diablo and the demons and anyone from the universe of Diablo. Now, do they actually have the power to do that? Yes, the fuck they do. So I talked about this before when I talked about Source, right? In Divinity, sorcerers are capable of controlling Source. I didn't really go into detail of what it is. It's all of existence, but you can actually destroy, manipulate, combine, absorb, fucking control, whatever you want, a person's source. And a person's source is everything that they are, their entire being. It's not just their fate, it's not just their memory, it's not just the memory people have of them, it's not just their soul, it's not just their body, their mind. It's literally everything, all of it together. Any source master that someone like Diablo comes into contact with could erase his source, just completely destroy it, and that would destroy not only Diablo, but the entire conceptual being that is Diablo. Every single other Diablo in existence. Essentially, any source master can permanently put down an infinite number of Diablos in a split second without even trying. Now, how likely this is a different story, because there aren't that many source masters. I mean, across the entire Divinity series, I think I can count maybe 16? Maybe, something like that. So the odds that Diablo himself actually comes into contact with a source master is unlikely. Despite there being an infinite number of Diablos, there's an even more infinite number of not Diablo type demons. How many demons do you kill in a Diablo game that aren't Diablo? A fuck ton, right? Like a shit ton. You have to kill thousands upon thousands upon thousands of demons before you make your way to Diablo. It takes effort to get to Diablo. And if none of the source masters that exist within the Divinity universe make it their sole purpose to find and kill Diablo, I don't really see them doing it. And honestly, they don't have much of a reason to. Because one, killing Diablo will not solve the demon problem, because that won't erase all of demons everywhere. And two, Diablo's not really that powerful compared to the Divinity universe. Diablo in the Divinity universe would be comparable to like anybody with dragon magic. He's just like a big ass monster with some cool hacks abilities and shit, but it's nothing really all that impressive. And his hacks ability's not gonna work on anyone in Divinity who has magic armor. So yeah, basically across the board, the Diablo demons and angels and all the humans that are coming in, it's really not going to be that much of a problem. It's going to be a constant flux of monsters, but they're really too weak to actually fuck with that many people. Any peaceful town or city that exists within any of these universes is going to be completely ransacked and murder raped, and there's nothing they could do about it. But any like mid-tier or higher being in these other universes are going to completely slaughter them. And honestly, it is probably possible that several of the top tiers, like the god beings from Divinity or Path of Exiles, would actually be able to just straight up erase all the demons, and there's really not a whole lot they can do about it, as long as they have some sort of fate manipulation. I don't think anyone from Path of Exiles is actually shown to have fate manipulation, now that I think about it. But yeah, so I think it's probably going to be up to Divinity. If any of the god level beings in Divinity just want to erase all the demons and get rid of them because they're an annoyance, they would be able to do that. Whether or not they actually take the time to do it, though, is a totally different thing, because there really aren't that many of them, gods, I mean, in Divinity. If they feel like it, they could, but they might not bother with it unless it personally bothers them, which I guess technically it would. So yeah, that's probably what's gonna happen. I think the demons are probably getting erased. So moving on to Titan Quest, this is gonna be pretty funny, because the bad guys in Titan Quest are the gods. They're assholes. They want control and power, and they want to subjugate people underneath them. That's like their whole deal. If they arrive into this new universe, they're gonna want to start subjugating all of these new people, and they're going to get very petty and very jealous that there's all of these other new gods that have been introduced that are taking up all of their valuable control space. The problem is, if they actually try to do anything about that, they're going to get fucked up, because the gods in the Titan Quest universe are nowhere near as strong as the gods in the Path of Exiles or Divinity. There's not really going to be a whole lot they're going to be able to do. I do think that they won't necessarily go to war with those other gods, because in Titan Quest, once the Titan Slayer proved that he was able to kill gods, most of the gods, not all of them, but most of them were like, okay, fine, we'll fuck off. It's cool. I think probably something similar is going to happen. They're going to show up at this new sort of world that's kind of a combined version of all these other worlds, and they're going to want to take control, and they're going to want to subjugate humanity. But when they see just how powerful some of these humans are, and just how ridiculously overpowered these gods are, they're gonna realize that they're completely out of their elements. They might as well hang up their god capes, because they're not fucking gods in these worlds anymore. They're way too weak for that. In terms of the Titan Slayer himself, I think he's gonna do the same shit he was doing in his own game, which was fighting all the monsters that the gods were sending to his world, killing them all, and like going towards the gods to fight the gods and kill them and stop it from happening. This is going to be the same scenario, except you're going to replace all those monsters the gods were sending down with the Diablo demons. Titan Slayer is just going to be killing a bunch of new monsters, having no idea who they are or where they come from, and trying to fuck with them, which he should be able to do very, very easily, because the Titan Slayer is significantly more powerful than anybody in the Diablo universe, other than Anu, but Anu's not fucking here right now. He's dead. Now, one of the biggest advantages of the Titan Slayer, which was an advantage he had in his own game, and it's going to get imported over here, is that the Titan Slayer, every time he goes into a new mythology, a new world to deal with a new type of gods and shit, he learns the magic of that area and learns the abilities and weapons and styles that exist within that world, add it to his own, and then utilize it in his own combat style in order to improve himself. So like, originally the Titan Slayer is a Greek, he's from Greece. He deals with Greek mythology. When he goes over to China and starts fucking with China gods, he starts picking up their weapons and their magic. When he goes over to like Norse mythology, he picks up runic magic and he starts using runic magic, something that he didn't know even existed before he got there. This is something he does multiple times throughout his entire game, and there's no reason to believe that it would stop. So normally, if he were to go into like a Divinity type area, right, he would be at a massive disadvantage because he doesn't have magic armor or regular armor. He won't be able to defend against any of the hacks that those characters use. However, when he gets there, he does have the capacity to learn how to use that stuff. If he gets there and he sees, oh shit, these people are using this kind of magic shielding that's shielding them from all sorts of magical hacks abilities, I need to learn that shit. He's gonna fucking learn it, and he's gonna learn everything else. In Divinity, there are books you could pick up and read them to get different masteries of different schools of magic. Titan Slayer is going to literally read every single book there fucking is and acquire all the magic he possibly can. Now, he won't be able to become a sorcerer because sorcerers, you can't learn that. It has to be, oh shit. Yes, he will fucking become a sorcerer. Okay, so in Divinity Original Sin 2, all of the 7 gods choose a different champion to become God-woken. These God-woken beings become, well, they're sorcerers before that, but gods can grant the ability to become a sorcerer to humans. Now, in Divinity Original Sin 2, the god of the humans chooses Ifan to be his champion on Earth, his source master. The question then becomes, would Ifan be chosen if the Titan Slayer is there? I don't think so. If you take Ifan as he is when he's chosen and compare him to the Titan Slayer beats him in pretty much every fucking scenario you possibly get into. The Titan Slayer is the greatest warrior in all of Greek, Chinese, Egyptian, and Norse mythology. It is a super easy assumption to make that the Titan Slayer is a better warrior than Ifan. And like I said, not only does Titan Slayer have all of his own magics from his own world that he'll already know, but he'll start picking up the magics of other worlds. There's literally nothing that Ifan can do that Titan Slayer won't eventually be able to learn how to do. And I think that the god of the humans in the Divinity world may see Titan Slayer as a better pick than Ifan as his God-woken. I think we're gonna see a God-woken Titan Slayer, which would be fucking rad. Look, Titan Slayer is nowhere near the most powerful character in this new amalgam universe that we've just created. There's a lot of characters more powerful. All of the gods and progenitors and the Elder and Shaper, all of them in Exiles are more powerful. The fucking gods in Divinity are more powerful. The God-woken are more powerful. Even like a lot of the high-tier sorcerers are more powerful than the Titan Slayer. But where the Titan Slayer excels is his ability to learn things of other places and cultures and universes in a way that main characters of these other series don't. Like, for instance, when you play Divinity, you can learn magics within Divinity, but all those magics are derived from the same place. It's all this, everyone uses the same type of magic. Same thing for Exiles and Diablo. It's all the same magics. It's all coming from one universe. But the magic in Greek mythology does not work the same way as the magic in Norse mythology. But the Titan Slayer is capable of learning and mastering both. He's the only one that's shown learning magics and skills and styles and fighting techniques across different cultures, universes, and disciplines in a way that none of these other characters do. This means that while he's entering this challenge nowhere near as strong as the top tier guys, his potential for increased power is higher than anybody else. He can surpass the God-woken. He could surpass characters like the Elder, like the Exiles. He can possibly surpass the God King from Divinity. He has that potential. Will he actually do it? I don't know. He might get killed before then. But if he is given the time to master it and learn it all, which, by the way, he does very quickly in the games, it's damn near instant, he'll become a fucking force of nature. And surprisingly, he might do better than literally anybody else across any of these other 4 universes. That's fucking crazy. I wasn't expecting that going into this. I'm not gonna lie. Okay, on to the Path of Exiles. The god tiers I'm gonna start with because that's kind of interesting. The whole thing about this is like the whole cosmic horror thing and how uncaring the gods are to the people below. So they have really powerful gods in the Path of Exiles, but they're not going to be relevant, much like in Diablo, because they're sort of indifferent to what goes on to humans down below. Which means the most powerful beings in Path of Exile aren't a fucking factor here, which is going to make them do a whole lot worse than they normally would. Now, the part that is going to be a massive factor is all of the just constant annoyances that happen in this world, like the fact that when you die, your soul gets fucking ripped apart by other weird little spirit demon things that show up. That's going to be a problem. For universes like Divinity, where they literally sell resurrection potions in fucking stores and shit, that's not going to matter. There's not going to be any resurrection here. You're going to have issues with every single time you kill something, it's going to come back to life a couple days later. That's going to be a major problem, especially if the entire universe is getting flooded with fucking demons from the Diablo universe. All of those demons you kill, their souls are going to leave their body and then go to regenerate, but their old bodies are going to come back to fucking life as a zombie demon. You're going to have an army of zombie demon Diablos. Liliths, Belials, all these fucking demons. They're just gonna, like, even once you kill them, that won't be enough. You're gonna have to kill them again and again and again and again. It's gonna be a constant influx of just constantly regenerating demons that can't die permanently. Man, this is gonna be fucking frustrating, dude. In terms of the most powerful beings in the universe, you have things like the Elder and the Shaper and Maven and things like that, and they're all just kind of assholes. Like, Shaper is this dude who just went insane and does a bunch of fuck shit, and then you have the Elder, which is literally just pure madness and terror personified, who just wants to cause as much chaos as he possibly can. He is just like an embodiment of chaos and destruction. And then you have Maven, who's just like a progenitor who's just kind of bored, and she just starts fucking with shit because of that boredom. Like I said, most of the characters in this game are just very indifferent to the suffering of other people. They're gonna show up and cause a bunch of fucking problems for the world, and that's gonna force people like the Titan Slayer to get involved. It's gonna force people like the heroes of Diablo to get involved, although they will probably get wiped out very, very fast. It might force Godwoken to get involved in things like this. What would be really cool is if you start taking like the God level beings like the Elder or like Maven, and then you start putting them up against like the God King of Divinity Universe. You have like these massive God slugfests. I mean, imagine Zeus from Titan Quest being like, all these gods coming in, I'm God, bitch, like, fuck this. And then he goes and tries to start fucking with the God King or the Elder or something, and then just gets immediately fucked up. He's like, okay, you know what, never mind. That would be funny. But yeah, the highest tier people in the Path of Exiles don't really have a goal or a purpose or anything that they want. They're just sort of very done with everything. They just don't care. And it causes them to do super, super fucked up shit. So it's really just gonna be on a timer of when the fucked up shit they do affects someone who's going to want to kill them, who can kill them. That's really going to be the major issue. And the only people that are going to be able to kill those top tiers are going to be the top tiers of the Divinity universe, and that's about it. Maybe Titan Slayer if he builds up that power, like I said before. If he builds up that power and he starts learning magic across all of it, he's fucking up everybody. Every evil god that exists, he's going after all of them. That's his purpose in life, is to kill gods who fuck with humans. So it's very possible that he will learn everything he needs to learn across all of the Path of Exile's universe and the Divinity universe, becomes the most powerful being, and it just fucks up the Elder, fucks up Maven, fucks up everybody, and then that'll just be the end of it right there. He'll solve the universe's problems. Now, if we go to a little bit lower than that, we go to like countries and societies and the different factions that exist with their different gods and all that. Like I said, the gods don't care. They're very passive. But all of the different societies that worship those gods, they're basically going to view all of the other people that are introduced, like the societies that exist within Diablo and Titan Quest and Divinity, they're going to view them all as just heretics, just more people who are showing up who don't worship gods that they worship. So the constant issues that all these different nations have with each other because they all worship different gods is just going to expand now, and now you're also going to add like Rivellon from Divinity, or fucking Greece from Titan Quest, and now it's just more religious war. But yeah, overall, the Path of Exile, despite it being extremely fucking powerful, isn't really gonna do a whole lot, but just passively fuck with people, because it's kind of a passive universe. Like I said, all the different crazy little effects that happen to the world, as well as the fact that gods just straight up don't care about anything. No one from the Path of Exiles is going to adamantly go after Divinity or Titan Quest or Diablo in the same way that the other three universes are going to go after the Path of Exiles universe, right? Like Diablo, that's what they do. They invade and kill shit and they war. Titan Quest, that's what they do. They conquer shit and they take over and they subjugate people. Divinity, same thing. What the fucking God King wants to do is to enslave or massacre anybody who's not an Eternal, and then just rule over everything with the Eternal and the Voidwoken. That's his whole goal. Path of Exile doesn't really have anything like that. It's just an entire universe that's just plummeting in this sort of depressing pity, and it's very bad. It's going to be an annoyance. It's not going to be like a really massive threat to all these universes. Even the exiles themselves, the main characters of the game, really only care about survival. They're not actively going out of their way to be heroes. All this combining of the different universes is going to do for them is it's going to make their fight for survival basically continuous. It's going to keep going forever because now they're going to be constantly attacked by Diablo demons, and they're going to be constantly attacked by Void Woken, and it will just never end now. It never was going to end before, but now it's like super never going to end. And really, that's about it. All right, last series on the list is Divinity, and this is the one that's probably going to make the biggest difference to the scenario as a whole, mainly because of the Void. So in the Divinity universe, a big part of the story of the universe is just keeping the fucking Void away from the main universe. The Void is a very, very big deal. Original Sin 2 is actually about like there being little leaks from the Void that just start massively fucking with the world as a whole. In this scenario, if all the universes are combined, there's no separation. The Void is fucking here now. And what the Void will do is it will corrupt the land, it will corrupt the people, it will drive them insane, it will fuck with reality itself, it will start altering how physics works. Like it's gonna turn people into monsters. Like I said, the Void is basically like the Doom demon corruption with like slightly more interesting effects on reality as a whole. It changes all sorts of crazy shit all across the world, and there really isn't anyone who's going to be able to defend against it unless you're from Divinity and you have the magic shielding, which isn't really going to last all that long if you have an infinite number of fucking Void monsters showing up to fuck up your shit. Then you have the God of the Void Woken, the God King, who just wants to fucking massacre and enslave all life that aren't Eternals. He's basically God Hitler. Like, he holds Eternals on a higher standard than literally any other race. And he's like, no, I want to rule over Eternals, and we be on the top of the food chain. Everyone else can either be slaves or dead, and that's what he wants to do with just everything, all of reality. And if you're adding all these extra people into it, it's not going to change his goals. He's still going to want to wipe everybody else out. This may actually force the gods from the exiles, those sort of chaos god beings, to actually get involved, because the God King is going to come for them too. They're not Eternals and they're not Void Woken. So he's going to have the same sort of racism towards them, and he's going to go after them as well. They're going to be forced to actually finally do fucking something because they're going to be a target now. And the God King is strong as shit. Like, it's made very clear that there's virtually no one that can fight the God King. If he ever got out of the Void, he's wiping out the entire Divinity universe. And I've already told you how powerful some of those gods are. All of the other gods combined can't beat him. They were only able to seal the Void and keep him in there. The only beings across all of these universes that are going to be able to do anything are the Chaos gods from the Path of Exile. It's just, are they actually going to do it? You also have the god of the Demon Realm, Chaos. That'll be kind of interesting because he's also normally locked in the Demon Realm, and now with him released, he's gonna fucking lose it as well. For one thing, he's gonna see all of these other Diablo demons running around, and he's gonna be very confused. Because in Divinity, he created the demon race. So now he's gonna see all these other demons, he's gonna be like, wait, hold up, did I make you guys? I don't think I made you guys. Where the fuck y'all come from? And he's gonna be a little bit confused. And in the Divinity universe, Chaos is the god of the demons. He's in control. Diablo is not going to like the fact that he's not, like, in the Diablo universe, Diablo often goes to wars with the other primevals for control. He's the most powerful of the primevals, and he wants to be in control of all of them. They go to war a lot. Diablo is not going to be okay with the existence of Chaos, who is a vastly, vastly more powerful leader of demons than Diablo can ever dream to be. So, like, what's gonna happen here? Because Chaos is gonna instantly look at Diablo and the demons and be like, yeah, you guys work for me now. And Diablo's gonna be like, no. That's, fuck you, and it's Chaos, that's gonna cause issues. Look, Diablo's not going to accept being a servant of Chaos, and Chaos isn't going to accept anything but him being a servant, because Chaos wasn't even really cool with working side by side with the 7 gods, and they were equivalent in power. Chaos, being the same power as any one of the 7 gods, went to war with all 7 of them at the same time, because he didn't want to work with them. Like, he don't give a fuck. Like, he don't care how much more powerful you are than him. He's going at you. Chaos got the dog in him is what I'm saying. So that in of itself will be relatively interesting because Chaos is going to cause all sorts of, You guessed it, fucking chaos across all of the fucking world, going to war with people, same exact way the God King will. Now, how chaos and the God King will interact will be interesting because God King won't necessarily want to kill chaos because chaos wasn't eternal. So he won't have that racism for him. But it was the gods who locked up the God King because he was just too destructive. I don't remember if Chaos was one of the ones who locked him up or if that happened outside of Chaos's purview. So I don't know. They might work together. They might have problems with him. If he was one of the people who locked up the God King, someone remind me, then they're probably going to go to war and the God King will kill him. But if not, they might actually be able to work together because that'll be two very powerful gods teaming up against basically the whole other universes, and it's gonna be a real issue. Like I said, nobody but the gods, I'm calling them chaos gods in the Path of Exiles. They're not called chaos gods, but they're basically chaos gods. They're like the fucking cosmic space chaos gods in H.P. Lovecraft. That's why I'm calling them that. But yeah, so basically the only real possibilities here, because Divinity's not going to be able to stop the God King once he escapes. It just is what it is. None of the God can stop him. None of the 7 gods can stop him. It'll be gone. And now that all of the universes are combined, they won't even be able to seal him in the Void because the Void's not a separate universe anymore. It's here. So nothing in Divinity will be able to stop the God King. That leaves it solely up to the gods of the Path of Exiles, which I don't know if they'll do until it's too late. Because the God King will just keep spreading his corruption and influence, keep spreading his power, and eventually he'll pass them up if they don't fucking get on their shit. That leaves it up to, surprisingly again, the Titan Slayer is the only person that maybe, if he utilizes all the magic across every single universe, learns everything he possibly can, heightens his skills and power and just tenacity to just fucking improve to get to the point that maybe he could fight the God King. He'll probably lose still, but you know, he might do something. Maybe? Dude, that sucks. Yeah, with the Void release of the God King, chances are everything will be just fucking destroyed by the God King and the Void. That's the most likely scenario. It'll just be the God King and the fucking gods of the Path of Exiles and whatever happens between them. Whether they're able to overcome the God King or not, but again, by that point, I don't think they're going to do it until he's pretty much destroyed everything already because they're just so uncaring about what's going on. Divinity as a universe is not going to be the biggest problem for this scenario necessarily because they're the most powerful, because really they're not. I mean, they do have some of the better hacks, but there really isn't a whole lot of evidence that they can just overpower the entirety of the other universes. But what they do have are gods that are far more active in the universe as a whole than the gods of these other universes. Diablo's gods are dead. The Exile's gods don't really give a shit and doesn't really interfere with anything that goes on with mortals. Titan Quest is literally about humans going to war with gods, and throughout the entire game you only fight a couple because the gods generally just send monsters to go fight for them. They don't really get involved all that often. All of the gods in Divinity are directly related to the stories that happen within Divinity. They constantly come in and fuck shit up and do all kinds of stuff. The only reason why they don't is because they're locked off in other universes and aren't allowed to. But all of their goals involve coming into Earth and fucking shit up. So with those barriers gone, it's basically gonna be a bunch of normal fucking dudes, normal for RPG standards, against literal gods. And those gods against those mortals, there's no competition. It's a fucking wash. The beings who can do something won't. And when they do, it'll probably be too late. So by the end of the challenge, most likely the entire world is going to be corrupted. Everyone's going to be turned into monsters. The Void is going to spread into this universe, and just that'll be that. And then it'll just be the God King and Voidwoken versus whoever's left once they survive all of the corruption and murder and enslavement. And then will the God King be able to be overcome by the gods of the other universes? Probably, I think so. But by that point, the damage has been done. You're basically going to be looking at an entire universe of Voidwoken that are not ruled over by a bunch of, again, uncaring gods. It's going to be a real shit place to live. Those are my opinions on it. I'm sure you have different ones. By all means, go down to the comments and tell me what you think might happen. Obviously, there's a lot of different things that could have happened in the scenario that I didn't touch on, like different character interactions and how certain people would react to other people, and there's all kinds of cool stuff that could go down. But you know, there's only so much I could talk about in a single video. Maybe I'll do a follow-up where I'll talk about other little cool things that'll happen. Who knows? But that's going to be all for me. Hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, make sure to like, subscribe, comment, share, and join the membership. Remember, if you join the membership, you get videos early. And always remember, y'all stay safe out there, you hear?